My mom told me I wasn't her real family on my birthday, so I evicted her, sold her car, and closed the account she secretly robbed. My name is Callan. I'm 32, and I used to assume that no matter how flawed a family was, they would eventually come around and care deeply. Perhaps they didn't know how to express it. That belief used to be my anchor, but on my birthday this year, it sank permanently. It began that morning. I wasn't expecting fireworks or a great gesture, let alone a present, but rather a text or a phone call to say, "Hey, we're thinking of you." Something tiny to hold on to. Instead, I received a voicemail. My phone buzzed while I was making coffee, and I noticed the small symbol. I didn't recognize the number, but I pressed play, hoping it was Mom phoning from work or something. What I heard chilled me more than I like to confess. My mother's voice was plainly smug and casual, as if she were discussing the weather. "Callan, don't expect a call today. We're busy celebrating our real family. You should understand that by now." That was it. There was no goodbye, explanation, or hesitation. Only a blunt dismissal wrapped in years of bitterness and served cold on my birthday. I hadn't moved for a long time. I just stood there, coffee going cold in my hand, repeating those words in my thoughts. Real family. I wanted to believe that it was an error. Perhaps she was inebriated or joking. But I knew better. For years I'd seen this coming in shards, like a slow drip from a roof that you pretend isn't leaking until the entire thing collapses. Allow me to rewind for a second. Growing up, I was always the responsible one. Not the favorite, nor the golden child. That was Reese, my younger brother. I was the one who made sure the bills were paid when Mom lost her job, and I skipped college parties to work additional shifts to keep the house when Dad departed. Reese dropped out of college to find himself in Mexico, read and party with his girlfriend, while I took over Dad's old delivery route to cover Mom's mortgage, which she couldn't handle alone. Eventually, I found a decent job in IT, moved into a tiny apartment downtown, and established a stable, quiet lifestyle. I stayed too close, probably, and assisted whenever she asked. She paid to have her automobile fixed last winter. Co-signed a credit card. When she complained about delays in her Social Security payments, I even joined her to a joint bank account. At the time, I had no second thoughts about it. Family supports family, correct? However, something has changed over the previous 2 years. Calls became shorter. Texts are unanswered. Invitations to family dinners ceased. At start, it was minor things like being left out of a group photo and learning via Facebook that Reese had gotten engaged. Then, last Thanksgiving, Mom forgot to tell me that the venue had changed. When I called, she said, "Oh, I didn't think you'd want to come. You're always so busy." Busy. I had spent 3 hours making a dumb pecan pie. Nonetheless, I continued showing up. I kept hoping. Keep trying. So, yes, that voicemail was different. Not because it was the first smack, but because it was the last I was willing to accept. I did not cry. I did not call back. I did not even erase the mail. I simply sat on the couch, stared at the ceiling, and thought. I reflected about all the money I'd lent, given, and received with no thanks. I grinned as I remembered Reese crashing my car on a test drive. I remembered Mom telling her friend directly in front of me, "Reese may not be successful, but at least he's fun." I reflected on how many times I allowed them to reduce, shrink, or delete me. Then I thought about the joint account. She begged me to add her a year ago, when she said she couldn't open one on her own, owing to terrible credit. I intended to remove her. Honestly, it was on my to-do list, right next to getting new tires and buying extra paper towels. But I never did. Apparently, she had also forgotten. I signed in, and there it was. The account held approximately $14,000, the majority of which came from a tax return I deposited last month with the intention of moving it later, but never did. I checked the transactions. Reese had used the card at an electronics store 3 days before. My mother had paid for breakfast at a downtown establishment I'd never been invited to. There was also a payment planned in Reese's name for a holiday rental in Maui. I stared at the screen for a long time. I was not angry. I felt hollow, like if all of my rage had burnt away, leaving just ash, calm, weightless ash. I clicked transfer to empty the entire account into my private one. Then I called the bank to have the joint account permanently terminated. Without hesitation. There's no warning. Then I recalled the automobile. When her old Toyota broke down a year ago, I gave her the extra car I had inherited from my uncle, a dusty but reliable Honda Accord. I never completed the DMV paperwork, therefore it remains in my name. She promised to transfer it eventually. They said it was simply paperwork. Mom's style is classic. I took the title from my filing cabinet and contacted a buyer I knew via Craigslist. He picked it up that evening with cash in hand. Mom was apparently out, as she didn't notice it was gone until the next morning. But I wasn't finished. There was one more thing. The home. It was not hers. Not legally. It used to belong to my grandparents, but after Grandpa died and Grandma moved into assisted living, it was left to me in the will. Mom was able to stay with my blessing without having to pay rent. Only one requirement applies. Pay your property taxes and maintain it tidy. Instead, she let Reese to move in with his girlfriend, ruined the basement with his music studio, and treated it as her personal realm. She never thanked me. Never admitted that it was my. In fact, last month, Reese had the gall to tell me, "We're thinking of redoing the kitchen. Don't worry, we'll let you know when it's done." Let me know. So I dug through my papers, got out the lease agreement I had created but never submitted, called a legal friend, and spent an hour writing a proper notice of eviction. I printed it, signed it. I slipped it inside an envelope with a small bow and placed it in their mailbox the following morning. I did not text her, warn her, or explain. I simply gave her what she gave me, quiet. And as I walked away from that house, watching the early light rising over the same cracked driveway where I used to skateboard as a child, I felt something change. Not satisfied. Not victory. Freedom. But that was just the beginning. By the time the eviction notice arrived in her mailbox, I had already banned her number. I wasn't trying to be theatrical, I just didn't want to get the inevitable voicemail. I knew what it would be. High-pitched terror, sudden motherly worry, and a gaslighting guilt trip masked by uncertainty. "Callan, what is this? Why would you do this to us? After all we've been through?" As if I were the one throwing the knife, rather than simply taking it from my back. Instead, I put my phone on quiet, checked out of social media, and concentrated on packing for my weekend getaway. Nothing spectacular, just a quiet Airbnb upstate, surrounded by trees where I could sit with my thoughts and perhaps find out who I was without the constant weight of being the reliable one. However, they did not have to wait long. By 10 a.m., I had 6 missed calls from Reese, 5 from Mom on a different number, and 2 from no caller ID, indicating that she was using a business phone. I did not pick up any of them. I brewed coffee, checked my email, fed the cat, and read a book. I had never felt more in control. Around noon, I had a knock on my apartment door. I was not expecting anyone. I reside in a quiet building with even quieter hallways. When I opened the door, there stood a half-wrinkled Reese shirt, jaw tense and pacing like a trapped animal. "You emptied the account," he complained. "There is no salutation, no, hey, happy birthday, only entitled disbelief." I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. "Yep. You sold the car. That's Mom's car." "Nope," I said calmly. "It was mine. In my name. Just like the house." His face grew red. "You're being a—" "Be careful," I said, interrupting. "Finish that sentence and I close this door." He took a deep breath, as if he was unsure whether I was bluffing. I was not. "You can't do this to us," he snarled. "You're just mad because Mom didn't call you." "No, Reese. I'm mad because you and Mom treat me like an ATM with a heartbeat." He blinked. I don't believe he was used to me pushing back. For years I played the calm, dependable brother, the fixer, and the cleaner-upper. He was currently seeing someone new, someone who didn't seek permission to draw the line. Then came the real kicker. He truly stated, "She didn't mean that message. She was just venting, it was a joke." My laughter caught him off guard. "So was the eviction notice," I explained. "Hope she finds it funny when the sheriff shows up in 30 days. Reese moved forward, but I raised my hand. "Don't try me." For once he didn't. He turned around, muttering something about overreacting and "you'll regret it," and rushed back toward the elevator. I watched him leave, heart racing but steady. That afternoon, I received a series of texts. First from Reese. "You have just wrecked this family. I don't think we will forget this. I hope your lovely kitty keeps you warm when you are old and alone." Then followed the ones from Mom, each with a unique flavor of manipulation. "You are pulling this family apart. I did not raise you to be cruel. What happened to my precious boy? I'll refund your money only to reverse the eviction. This is not you." But it was. This was finally me. For the first time, I was not the doormat. I wasn't the most fun sister. I wasn't the emergency contact. the silent benefactor, or the supporting role in their chaos. I was the guy who quit apologizing for his existence. The following day, my lawyer friend called. She left a voicemail, she explained. Sounds like she wants to contest the eviction. Can she? I inquired. Number, she has no legal claim to the house. You've covered yourself. She's just flailing. I thanked her before hanging up. Then I got another knock on my door. This time, it was not Reese. It was my aunt. Aunt Celine has always been the family's Switzerland, impartial, smiling, slightly ignorant, but never unkind. She arrived with a Tupperware of lemon bars, as if she were bringing peace in a suburban war zone. Can I come in? She inquired. I paused. But then I noticed the worry in her eyes. Not performative, not judging, genuine concern. She sat on the couch as if it were holy ground. Callan, she's spiraling. She had years to treat me like a son, Celine. I know, she replied. And she was wrong. You've always been there. Always. We all saw it. Then why didn't anyone say anything? Her silence was sufficient. She's scared, she finally admitted. She doesn't know how to be without you. I nodded. Neither did I. But now I do. Celine left shortly thereafter. She did not ask me to undo anything. She just hugged me and said, I hope you sleep well tonight. I did. They had a chaotic few days. Reese attempted to attack me on Facebook with a rant that began with, my brother just evicted our mother on his birthday. But he forgot I had receipts, texts, photos, screenshots. I didn't even need to upload them. My friends and co-workers supported me before I ever read the post. One of my former college roommates commented, imagine being so ungrateful to the person keeping the lights on. Y'all deserve to be homeless. That comment received the most likes. Eventually, the post disappeared. 3 weeks later, I received a letter. My mother typed a formal apology and signed it. But I'm not going to reveal what it says yet. Because what happened on move-out day is when everything really unraveled. Move-out day came on a dreary Tuesday morning. I did not go over there, I could not. My lawyer told me I didn't need to because the paperwork was complete. The sheriff's office had arranged the formal notice, and if my mother and Reese didn't cooperate, they'd be forcibly removed by the end of this week. Still, I kept track of the time like a worried clockmaker. 9 a.m. They were due to leave by 9:17. My phone vibrated. A photograph. It came from my neighbor across the street, Mr. Alden, a retired postal worker who always nodded graciously when I mowed the lawn on my visits. The photograph showed my mother standing on the front porch in a robe, arms folded, staring at 2 uniformed officers, while Reese stood by a beat-up automobile, loading black trash bags into its trunk. The house appeared tired, with overgrown shrubs, flaking paint near the garage, and a sagging rain gutter that had yet to be repaired after last year's storm. I offered to fix it. She said, we're managing fine. Apparently, fine meant duct tape and denial. By lunchtime, a second snapshot arrived. The porch is presently empty. The for sale sign, which I had allowed, was planted in the yard like a flag, signaling the start of something new. However, the aftermath was not silent. Later that evening, I received another tap on my door. This time, I was not surprised. That was her. My mother stood in the doorway, covered in a thick gray coat and holding a manila package. She did not appear angry. She appeared old, smaller. As if she had aged 10 years and 3 weeks. She didn't beg to come inside. She simply handed me the packet and explained, I wrote everything down. I didn't say anything, just nodded. She lingered. Reese is living with pals. I am figuring things out. More silence. I didn't mean to hurt you, she explained, as if that could erase decades in a single breath. You did, I said. I know. Then she turned to walk away. I did not open the envelope that night. I left it on the kitchen table while I prepared dinner, watched television, and brushed my cat. It wasn't until nearly midnight, while I was standing by the window with a mug of tea, that I took it up. Inside was an 8-page letter, typed and double-spaced, filled with memories. Mostly hers. Childhood stories. Things I had forgotten. Things I wished I had. She talked about Dad departing. About how she had hidden her fear behind pride. And how, when I began assisting financially, she let herself go, persuaded that if I could bear the weight, I could. Being dependable meant being responsible, and being responsible meant being invisible. She did not ask me to forgive her. She's just explained. Finally, one statement in bold. I spent so long asking what you could provide me that I never inquired how much it would cost you. I did not cry. Not then. But something broke. The following few days were quiet. Too quiet. No calls or knocks. It was just the gentle hum of moving on. Until Saturday a.m. I was preparing pancakes when my phone rang. It was Aunt Celine. I smiled, expecting another peace offering, perhaps banana bread this time. However, her voice was keen. "Callan," she added hastily. "You should come to the church, now." I froze. What? "Reese, your mom. They're here. And Reese just informed the whole room you stole the house from them." My stomach dropped. I grabbed my keys. By the time I arrived to the church parking lot, I could hear heated voices through the open double doors. A neighborhood fundraiser for the youth center seems to have gathered a fair attendance. And smack in the center of all, like a horrible soap opera, was Reese, gesticulating madly with a paper in his hand. "She forced our mom out," he stated to no one in particular. "My brother feels he's greater than us just because he was lucky in a will." Lucky. That word struck me harder than I expected, and luck had nothing to do with it. I had not inherited my riches. I inherited an obligation. I hadn't been given a mansion. I'd been handed a disintegrating family and told to keep it together. I stepped through the doorway. Everyone looked at me. Reese noticed me and lighted up, like if he'd been waiting. "Here he is. The golden boy has arrived to defend your kingdom." I remained calm, walked slowly, looked around the room. Then I replied, "Sure. Let us talk about luck." And what I said next, well, that's when everything truly fell apart. I stood at the front of that little community room, everyone looking at me as if I were the villain who had just walked onto the stage of a Sunday sermon. Folding chairs, the lemonade table. The sleepy piano melody still echoes softly from the corner. It all felt weird, as if I had been invited to my own trial without realizing it. Reese was still holding the paper, which was a fuzzy printout of a bank statement I'd long ago closed. He looked smug, as if he'd just put out irrefutable evidence that I was the world's worst human. "You came to evict your own mother," he retorted. "On your birthday, no less." "Callan, you're quite classy." I took a long breath before turning to face the room. I recognized some familiar faces, including old neighbors, members of Mom's reading club, and even Mr. Alden from across the street, who was frowning with his arms crossed. I did not yell. I did not defend myself by throwing a tantrum. I just told the truth. "Okay," I murmured slowly, allowing the silence to settle before proceeding. "Let's talk about what actually happened." And then I arranged it piece by piece. There is no anger. There's no drama. Simply the truth, said clearly. "I've paid the mortgage on that house for the last 5 years, I told myself. My grandfather bequeathed it to me in his will. My mother was allowed to remain there rent-free as long as she maintained it and paid property taxes. She did not. I also covered those. When my brother moved in, I did not charge rent. I did not ask for anything. I just asked for respect." Someone in the background whispered something. I continued going. After her car broke down, I handed her mine. "Yes, I have a spare, but it is still mine. In my name." She never transferred the title. Never repaid me. I paid for the flowers for her birthday. I covered Reese's bail once, but I stopped myself. Let's not go there. That caused a few eyebrows to raise. Reese paled. I opened a joint account so my mother could pay her bills while she waited for delayed payments. I forgot to take her out when she got back on her feet. That is on me. But I didn't expect her and Reese to spend that money on a vacation to Maui that they hadn't even mentioned to me. I just found out after I viewed the transaction. People were shifting in their chairs. A murmur began. I looked at my Aunt Celine, who was standing at the corner, eyes wide and one hand over her chest. I knew she'd already known parts of this, but not everything. Reese attempted to interrupt. "You're twisting it." But I raised my hand and continued. "On my birthday," I explained slowly, "I received a voicemail from my mother. She said, and I quote, 'Do not expect a call. We are busy celebrating our real family.' You could have heard a pin drop. She did not forget to call. She decided not to. So yeah," I said. "I closed the account. I sold my automobile. I served a formal eviction notice on a residence that legally belongs to me because I finally realized something. I turned to face Reese. Love does not imply letting someone drain you dry. It does not imply being the quiet one who bears the brunt of everyone else's faults in order to gain their acceptance. Love implies boundaries. And if being the bad guy is the only way to make those boundaries stay, then I'll play the villain. For a long time, nobody said anything. Then a voice, Mr. Alden. Low and exhausted. Good for you, son. Another voice followed. Should have cut them off years ago. Even a few applauses. Nothing loud. There is nothing dramatic. Just modest affirmations from folks who had clearly been watching from the sidelines for longer than I knew. Reese stormed out a moment later, cursing beneath his breath. Several individuals followed. The majority stayed. My mom did not attend the event at all. I found out later that she had been waiting outside in the car. I believe she understood what was about to happen but lacked the energy to confront it. Aunt Celine met me outside and drew me into a hug that lasted much longer than it should have. Are you okay? She asked. I don't know, I admitted. But I think I will be. In the weeks that followed, things became quieter. Reese stopped contacting me once his smear effort fizzled. It turns out that when your reputation is solely based on charm and trickery, it does not hold up well under scrutiny. His pals, whom he boasted about living with, kicked him out after a week. I heard he was couch hopping and trying to launch a podcast. Reese at his best. Mom tried to reach out again. This time there's no shame, just quiet, hesitant texts like, thinking about you. I hope you're doing well. I apologize. I did not block her. But I did not answer either. Not at first. I needed some room. In that area, something unexpected occurred. I became better. The tightness in my chest, which had been there since I was 17, began to loosen. I stopped dreaded waking up and seeing my notifications. I redecorated my place and got rid of the beige furnishings I'd always used to blend in. Purchased a bright yellow couch. I enjoyed the art that was hung up. I started cooking again. I joined a local hiking group. I met people who had no expectations from me other than my presence. I eventually wrote her back. Only one message. I forgive you. But I'm not prepared to be close. Perhaps someday. Her response. That is fair. I will wait. And that was all. The house was cleaned, painted and listed. It was sold to a young couple with a toddler and a rescued dog. I met them once during the walkthrough and offered them my phone number in case they had any concerns about the neighborhood. They invited me to their housewarming party. I graciously declined. I didn't have to go back. I'd spent so long trying to fit in with a family that only valued what I had to offer that I forgot I didn't have to earn love to be worthy of it. Now I am at peace. I have my own boundaries. And for the first time in my life, I have a future of my own. So no, I did not destroy the relationship. I simply lit a trail away from it. And honestly, it's toasty over here.